Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel where we are going to do a little bit of paper piecing today, and literally just a little bit while we make this super fun card. And I'm actually going to make two backgrounds with you. So let's just jump right in. I'm using the Enchanted Forest set. So this comes with a stamp set and a full die set, which coordinates amazingly well. So if you have this set, you'll notice that the material for the stamps is just a little bit different. It's an eco-friendly type of plastic, I think it is, that they were using. I don't think that's going to be all the stamps, but in case you were curious, because I was, that's what it is. And so I'm getting a really good impression with them by using my platform and inking it multiple times. They don't quite stamp as crisp the first time as, say, photopolymer. So I wanted to make sure I kept that in there in case you're working with the same set. I'm also testing out my new chamois by Scrapbookcom. If you're unfamiliar with this type of material to clean up your stamps, it will come out of the package damp, but then it'll dry really, really hard. And so what you need to do is just re-wet it, and it'll get like a soft material again to clean up your stuff. Okay, now let's move in. I don't color in this video, but I do have a separate video where I color. I just want to show you real quick. Number one, this is how I store my alcohol markers. And number two, you can get that chart if you like over on my website, link below, for free. I'll have it down there. You can get the pictures of my charts in both the brush and the bullet tip. So if you wonder if that chart will work for your Ohuhu markers, I say grab it up. It's free and give it a go. All right, let's get into card making here. So I am going to start by coloring up my stuff. And like I said, I use this chart. Without this chart, I cannot color. So I'm going to color in a separate video because it took me a while and I didn't want to elongate this one. This is how I colored up my images here, and I actually had a lot of fun. I haven't colored in quite a while, so it was nice to get some practice in. Now I'm going to start making this card, the first one. I'm going through my woodland paper pad here because what I want to talk about in this video is paper piecing. But if you have a minimal stash of pattern paper like I do, I just have these paper pads. I love that they coordinate, and I really appreciate that this particular brand, which is Scrapbookcom, puts solid colors in there as well, because I don't really like a lot of patterns on my cards, and so I get to use both. So I really appreciate that, and I don't have a lot of other pattern paper outside of these pads. Okay, so here's paper piecing. What you're going to do is you're going to stamp the portion of your stamp or you're going to ink the portion of your stamp that you want to fussy cut and then piece it on top of your original image. So I just am stamping out, you can see here the middle, I switched to a smaller ink pad, just made it simpler. But I'm going to stamp out the middle of the bear now, which is sort of that bib looking thing that he's wearing, onto this pattern paper. And I'm going to continue to do that with different parts of my stamps. Now these are critters that are wearing something, a hat, a collar, something like that, which makes this fun and a technique you can actually do instead of them just being out in the wild. So this particular one I'm not going to use. I did keep it in here just so you can see it was way too busy with the black lines of the collar plus the pattern. So that didn't work out so well. But let's say you don't have coordinating dies for your particular stamp set like this one does. You can do this just by stamping out the portions onto paper and then fussy cutting them. So if you haven't heard of paper piecing, I really recommend you give it a try. It's really fun. It reminds me of when we were kids, at least when I was, we had like these little like dress up Barbie wooden things, or I don't know if they were magnetic or something, but you would like put the different outfits on them, and it was just really simple fun. But that's what paper piecing reminds me of. Then you're going to go through and you're going to fussy cut each of those portions that you stamped out onto the pattern paper. And then you're basically just going to place it right on top of your image. Okay. On this note, I do have another video where I go over a few tips in fussy cutting. It's a really short video, but I wanted to do that separately as well, because otherwise I just tend to cram so much into one video, and then you're like, what's the theme of this video? Okay, so here you can see me placing down my pattern papers. And look at that, how fun. They just fit right on there. Again, this particular stamp set comes with all these coordinating dies, and I will use those in the second card I make. But for this one, I thought the paper piecing technique would be so fun. Now I'm going to take one of those dies. It's not necessarily a coordinating die, meaning it doesn't cut out something that you can stamp, but it does coordinate with the theme. So I'm going to cut that out, and it does emboss here onto the paper. That's not pattern paper. So I think that's really fun. I love when little die cuts emboss as well. It gives you kind of like a 2-for-1 deal. And then I'm going to encourage you to pull out some of those backgrounds that you've been saving and you don't know what to do with. So that's what I did here. I just pulled out one of these backgrounds I did during a class, and I love it. If you want to know how I did that particular one, that was the leftover stencil ink. I stenciled out something and then it had ink on it. I spritzed it with water and I picked it up with watercolor cardstock. And that's how I got that cool looking look. So I'm going to cut this out of a rectangle stitched die because this is 100% my most used die in my stash. Like, hands down. I use it a lot. Anyway, I love how it cuts it down smaller, then I can layer up some colors behind it. And look at how all of these things just coordinate so beautifully together. When I use the patterns, when I use the solid color from the paper pad, I just don't have to think about it. I don't have to wonder if it looks good because it really does. And so I am starting to put my pieces together now. I thought I wanted the balloons, but then I had these banners from the die set, and I thought that would be really fun to add those, kind of a little, what is the word? Cattywampus? I didn't grow up with that word, but I sure am adopting it because it's fantastic. But anyway, I'm going to put those on there. Now let's move over real quick and just add a little bit of dimension and interest to our little stump here, adding a little bit of brown ink with my little finger dauber. And I just think that, you know, it always adds a little bit more to some of those flat pieces. Now I want to give you a tip here of how to de-warpify your warped cardstock. This is really, truly my favorite tip, is the foam adhesive. So whether or not you have craft foam and you put adhesive on both sides, or you have actual foam adhesive that comes sticky on both sides, either way, I find that it really does make it sturdy. And I wanted to put this on its panel, like the layering that I'm going to do, before I started assembling it, because I felt like it would flatten it out as much as possible. And that makes for easy assembly when you start to glue down stuff onto your card panel. You want it as flat as possible. So I'm going to place this down, and I am, like I said, I cut down a couple of those pieces, and I'm going to layer them. Now, a pro tip here, if you don't want to use up all that pattern paper in the center behind my first rectangle, you can absolutely die cut that out and save it. Now I'm going to start putting on my little paper pieces here, which I really want to, I have to do more of this because it really did. It was very nostalgic. It's very fun. And I'm going to place that down. Now I want to add these. What I find is my little wax tool picks up all kinds of things, to include cardstock. So that one is really my favorite. You've probably seen them sold by craft companies, but you can get them on Amazon too because they use them for nail art. So everything I use, I'll link below if you want to check it out, but you don't really have to spend a lot of money on stuff like that. It comes pretty cheap if it's not like a craft branded product. You can probably get it somewhere else. So I'm going to lay this down with some liquid adhesive, but I'm going to pop up our little bunny. The little fox doesn't make it into this card, but that little fox will make it into the next card, I believe. So there we have it. We have one more layer here that I'm going to add, but I want to also remind you, another tip is you can draw extra things onto your images. You don't have to just keep them as is. So as you can see with the balloon, I added some white dots, and now I'm going to add some polka dots to his hat, and that breaks up the image between his hat and the bear and then the little rabbit's hat. Now with the bow tie, I'm going to add some frosted lace stickles to give that some nice sparkle as well. And I don't think I put that in the video, so I wanted to make sure that I added it. All right, so that will finish off this first card. I have to say, I love that card. I was really proud of that card. I get that way about a few of my cards, but the aesthetic, as Adia would say, that's the word she used, the aesthetic. I guess that's like the color theme. I don't know, lingo these days. So now I'm using the same concepts here, but I use the dies that came with the set. And they're basically doing what I did by fussy cutting and paper piecing. So you can die cut these pieces out of your paper pad and not have to fussy cut them at all. So I just wanted to make sure I showed the first technique because not everyone has coordinating dies with their stamp sets. And no matter which set you're using, whether it be this one, you know, obviously this one comes with it, but or another one. Okay, let's move on to this patchwork cover plate die. So this is really cute if you are using your pattern paper. Now, I'll be the first to admit this would be very time consuming. But if you cut this out of, let's say, 2 or 3, maybe 4 different pieces of pattern paper and you put it together like a quilt, that would be so super cute. What I'm doing here though is I'm just testing out this cover plate die. I wanted to see what different things I can get out of it, how I can use it differently. And so this is what it would look like. I just did it in all white. Now I end up going on and covering it in ink, but this is a different way I wanted to show you that you can use something like this. So I took out 3 of the pieces and I laid them on a blank panel, and I am going to use them as sort of a mask / stenciling to get a unique abstract kind of look on the background. Now I experiment a lot in my craft room and I want to encourage you to do the same. Not everything comes out to be this grand, beautiful piece of art. That is the truth. And a lot of times I keep that in the videos. There's one video I did where the whole day was going awry. And so I shared all of that with you. But I thought in my mind, this would kind of look cool just to give it a little bit of a different type of feel background and not make it like a symmetrical stencil. And so I was just having fun and I was experimenting. You'll notice that I'm putting gray and brown down onto my cardstock at the same time. And that's because I did not clean my brush. So word to the wise, if you want a particular color to not get contaminated, you got to clean your brushes, but I don't all the time, so whatever. All right, now we're going to go into just finishing that up. Now, I thought that's pretty cool, actually. If you just leave it like that, that would be pretty neat. And I think it's definitely because of the divots, now what are those called? Scallops kind of around the images that makes it look even cooler. But think about it could be like a postage stamp too that you can use and do something fun with that. Make it look like a little postage stamp. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to lay down some more hickory smoke gray around. And then I love this technique to add some shadowing that really makes the center pop and almost brighten like a glow. So I took some black soot in regular distress ink, which I use way more than the black soot in the oxide ink because I think it's just a really dark and rich kind of color that shows up. So I'm going to go around the whole part of the card panel and we're going to get this look. Now, you don't have to have any particular card panel to do that technique, that shadow technique. You can do it on plain cardstock and it still looks cool. I'm going to just assemble now and put everything together. That happy birthday, the balloons, and all the extras are from that die set. And so very simple. I just used a white piece of cardstock. Oh, and I'm missing the top of the eye. Oh well, that thing was so tiny, I'm sure I wasn't going to find it. So we'll just avert our eyes when we're looking at that. Pretend we don't see it. I'm going to take a pencil first and just draw my little balloon strings so I know I like them. And then I'm going to go in with a black marker and just outline them. And what do? I think the last thing that I do on this card is I add some more polka dots to the little bear's hat. And there we have it. And this card is finished. Now, if you hang out for a little bit, I'm going to show you these cards in slow-mo. And then I show you a third card that I did with still the same set with the paper and the dies and stamps and stuff. So you want to hang out and see that one. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this was a great reminder for you to try paper piecing if you never have, or to do it again if you've been putting that technique on the back burner, because it's so fun. And like I said, I will post a couple more videos on different techniques and then my coloring video as well. You can check those out on my channel. And I will link what I used in this video in the description box below. I've said enough. I will see you in the comments down below and in the next video. Bye-bye.